Word questions. So here we've got an example of a word question. The sum of two numbers is 49 and their difference is 19. Find the numbers. So what we have to do in these types of questions is to first of all choose some letters to use. So I'm going to use X and Y for my two numbers. The sum of the two numbers is 49. That means that the two numbers add together to make 49. So I can write this as one of my equations. Their difference is 19. Well, that means if I take the bigger one, let's assume that X is the bigger one, and I subtract the other number, it's going to have to be 19. So I've used the two bits of information in the question to write down two equations, and then you have to use your skills of solving simultaneous equations to solve it to find the answer. Now in this case, probably what I would do is add the two equations together because the y and minus y will cancel. And we'll get 2x equals 68. X is then, we know, is 34. And then use one of the equations, the top one probably, to see that y has to be 15. Okay. Right, let's do another one. A shop sells apples and bananas. 2 apples and 3 bananas cost this, and 3 apples and 2 bananas cost this. How much are an apple and a banana each? So basically we're trying to find the cost of one apple. I'm going to call that A. So that's the price of one apple. And let's use B for the price of one banana. I can use X and Y, but it's easier to use nice letters in this case. A for apple, B for the banana. Okay, so we have these two bits of information which we need to turn into equations. So he's bought 2 apples. Now how much would 2 apples cost? Well, 2 apples would cost 2 times A, because A is the cost of one apple. So if you were buying 2 apples, you would just times that by 2. So that would be 2A. How much does 3 bananas cost? Well, I would do 3 times the cost of one banana, so 3B. And obviously I want to add those together to tell me the total cost of all those apples and bananas. So that's equal to $1.30. Now I'm going to use cents just to avoid using decimals. Right, 3 apples and 2 bananas cost $1.70. So can we see that it's going to have to be written like this? 3 apples, 2 bananas is 170. And then you just solve this equation. Now, personally, I would probably times the top one by 2 and the bottom one by 3. Yeah, because then the top one will be 4 apples and 6 bananas costs 260. Oops, 260. And times in the bottom one by 3, 9 apples plus 6 bananas is 510. And then of course I need to solve that. So I'll just write it here. And I'll put the bigger one on the top, make it slightly easier. So I would in this case just subtract. Yeah, 6 bananas minus 6 bananas is nothing. So that tells us that 5 apples is equal to 250. So it tells us that 1 apple is 50. And then work back. So probably take the first equation. 2 apples plus 3 bananas is 130. Well, if an apple is 50, that's 100 plus 3 bananas equals 130. So 3 bananas must be 30. So it's telling you that the price of 1 banana is 10 cents. Okay, so we got the answer we were looking for. Okay, one last one. Slightly different. Again, apples and bananas. Let's assume it's a different shop. So John buys some apples and some bananas. He's going to buy 10 pieces of fruit altogether. Okay, so he might buy 3 apples and 7 bananas, or 5 apples and 5 bananas. Yeah, but we just know that he buys 10 altogether. Each apple costs 6 crowns and each banana costs 9 crowns. So this time it's different. We know the price of the apples and bananas. That's what we were looking for in the last question. He spends 66 crowns. How many apples and how many bananas did he buy? Okay. So this time we're going to use A for the number of apples he buys and B for the number of bananas he buys. Okay, so let's see what equations we can make. Well, first of all, we know he buys 10 pieces of fruit altogether. So the number of apples he buys plus the number of bananas he buys must be equal to 10. So that tells us one of the equations. Now, how do we get the other one? Well, we need to use the information about the cost. Each apple costs 6 crowns. Now, he's buying A apples. So how can we work out the total cost of all his apples? Well, we would just do 6 times A, wouldn't we? If you were buying 10 apples or something, you would just, to work out your cost, you would do 10 times 6. Okay, so it's the same thing. So 6 times A gives the cost of all the apples. The cost of all the bananas will be 9 times B. And we know the answer to that is 66. Okay, so we've made our equations from the information they've given us. Now we have to solve it. So in this case, we can just times the top one by, let's say, 9 and keep the bottom one the same. So 9 apples plus 9 bananas is 90. Keep the second one the same. And of course, if we subtract those, the bananas will cancel out. So 3 apples is costing 24. Well, three times the number of apples must be 24, yeah? So basically, A must be 8. So this is telling us that he must have bought 8 apples, okay? And we know that from this equation that apples plus bananas must be 10, so bananas must be 2, okay? So that gives us the answer.